maybe you introduce yourself a little bit, how long you have been with BlaBlaCar, what you did before, because I think it's quite relevant, your international experience.
Okay. So, hi everyone. Very glad to be here today. So I've been with BlaBlaCar for about 3 years now. Before I was focused on international expansion, which was, as Nicolas said before, the core of our strategy. And right now, actually, I changed role, and I'm the general manager of BlaBlaPro, which is one of the new business lines that we have recently launched to focus on professional supply, so in the integration of professional supply.
Okay, so let's talk about the going international,
Sure.
which is for us at NOAH like one of the core topics. We want to help European entrepreneurs to learn from successful entrepreneurs, peers, to take companies global. In how many countries you operate today?
So right now we are in 22 markets. France is our home market, so the first one that we launched. And quickly we started to expand across Europe. The first market in Europe we expanded to was Spain in 2009. And then we started to expand outside of Europe in 2014, launching Russia, Ukraine, and then Turkey, India, Mexico, and Brazil.
And is it like a cookie-cutter approach, like the Airbnb, Uber rollout, where they kind of have a handbook how to do a country? Do you have local people? Do you do everything out of Paris? Tell us a little bit about the day-to-day, how you launch a country. When are you start spending money on the marketing side? What are your learnings? What works best?
It's a very interesting question. So we obviously have a playbook. And the way that we have launched country is really depending to market. So first and foremost, what we assess is obviously the size of the market and where does it make sense for us strategically to go to. We do that by looking at a number of variables, such as obviously the population, the market size, the internet penetration. So what is the opportunities for us to enter there, and also the competition and potential strategic actually moves that we can do in a country.
Do you have in these 20, how many countries out of the 22 you have local competitors?
We actually don't have many local competitors. I would say that we have a small competitor in Russia right now, which is doing exactly what we're doing. And when you're talking about competition, actually, direct competition in terms of what exactly we are doing, there are very few companies that actually are doing that today. And no one is doing at the scale at which we are. So in Europe, we are definitely the market leaders. And also in the other markets where we are present, we are number one. What we also have as competition is other transportation solutions, such as buses and trains. Those are also competition to us, but they are not doing the same core business.
Right. There's choice for a traveler.
And I think going back to what you were asking before about how we actually establish a market, yes, we focus a lot about having local team. We actually, even at headquarters, try to have very international talent so that you have it as part of the mindset, as part of the culture. The way that we have launched country has differed. Sometimes we have done some acqui-hire. So we have found actually some small teams of entrepreneurs that were very passionate about carpooling, and they had launched a small platform in that space. And so we have incorporated, and they have been growing with BlaBlaCar, the company. Other times has been setting up the market from scratch, so getting a local person in the market and doing the launch from zero.
Yeah. I'm always surprised when we have big companies like yours on stage, that it seems to me that every country is more or less created equal. Do you see any differences in the kind of ride-sharing segment where you say, oh wow, the Russians, they only want to take one passenger? Or are there any characteristics, any learnings?
Yes, absolutely. I don't think that there is one market fit all. And the interesting thing about what we do is that we are changing actually the behavior of people. We are changing the way people travel. So it's a very bold move. Most of the time we enter a new markets, if you speak about it with local players, they would tell you it's never going to work. And then you obviously look at the dynamics for which you think that there is an opportunity to grow, but it's not until you're there if you understand really that the product market fit is right. And in some markets has been actually tremendous surprise in actually growing exponentially, one of those markets being Russia.
Yeah, well, let's talk about Russia. Nicolas told me it's your biggest market. you said earlier, and you don't monetize it yet, which I think is surprising because it's your biggest, and I mean, you give it out for free. Are you able ever to charge for it?
I guess at some point we will. So the way that we don't monetize actually all markets that we are in. What we focus on is creating usage, and so you don't want to create any barrier for people being able to actually share the journey together. It's also true that actually markets are different. So we have been actually taking our time in Russia to really understand what were the dynamics of the markets and whether we could implement the same model that, for example, we have in France, which is a transaction-based model. And I think that what is evident in a country such as Russia is that cash payments are still very important. And so you want to make sure that you're not introducing online payment, making a blocker to the growth of the company, but that you actually find a business model that works in that specific market. So we have been actually working on a new model that we have been deploying in Poland very successfully, which is called Multipass. We also actually have deployed that in Germany, and we are doing it in many countries where we feel that there is an importance for the community to still be able to transact in cash. And probably that's the direction that we will take in Russia as well.
Okay. So what's next for BlaBlaCar? You said earlier that you are in charge of BlaBlaPro. I think Nicolas taught us a little bit about that. I think international expansion, check mark, done. You're now a global company, which for us Europeans is very important because a lot of these global platform businesses are American, and I think we're quite proud to have also big European platforms. What's next? What's BlaBlaPro?
So what is BlaBlaPro? BlaBlaPro is a new platform that integrates actually the professional offer. So what we are going to do is we are going to integrate buses and minibuses to the platform in the access where we have actually very high demand. And this is something that is actually going to work very well, especially in emerging markets, where the bus market is highly fragmented and where we see a very high demand. And I think that is important to know the difference that we represent in emerging market versus, let's say, more developed markets such as Europe. I think that in Europe we are really like an alternative travel solution, a very important one, more granular, more dense, point to point. But in emerging markets, very often in specific access, we become the only transportation solution available. Mm-hmm. And so I believe that carpooling and professional transport is actually highly complementary. Because you have to...
Is BlaBlaPro more expensive than the kind of private car?
I think it's not a question of price, it's a question of usage. So you have people that are traveling between two main urban centers. And you have actually the majority of people which are traveling from or to small cities or outside urban centers. For the latter group, the car is actually the most effective way to travel. Because otherwise they would probably have to enter into a large urban center to find the way of transport. So what you want to do is you want to provide a very dense network of cars that covers entire geographies, and then on main axis you want to add professional supplies so that you can increase the liquidity. By increasing the liquidity, you're increasing actually the frequency, and you also allow people to be able to book in advance, which is something that can be actually key in deploying the market. So we really feel that there is a high complementarity between carpooling and professional. And I think that if you put the two things together, very quickly you actually can become the #1 platform for long-distance transport.
I like very much the pivoting and adding nuances to the business model, which started, Nicolas was 2013 on our stage. And it's really nice when challengers are also challenging themselves and changing the business model by bringing in professional drivers to, I guess, have a better customer experience, right? To have better coverage in the kind of routes where you don't have too many drivers yet.
You want to find the best possible solution for all our community members, and I think that providing both is what is going to unlock that potential.
Have you seen the Volocopter outside?
I haven't not seen it yet. Oh, well, I have seen it actually entering,
but I'm
going to see it on stage, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you very much for that.